As mentioned at the top of the show, we've got Tom Thiel in the studio. We also have Bob Minter, host of Zip Code Zero. You can hear that show Monday and Tuesday nights, 7 till 9 o'clock p.m. right here on your station, New Rock, New Radio, Code Zero Radio. Tom, welcome to the studio. How you doing?
Great. It's good to be here. It's an awesome location here.
You've been playing in the Fox Cities for quite some time. You've got a lot of experience with the music scene. How has the scene grown? Right off the bat, I'll ask you, how has the scene in the Fox City flourished since you started?
Well, it has changed a lot. I remember back, way back in the early 90s, there was, a few bands playing original material, but there was no venues. Nobody wanted to hear it. Everybody wanted the cover bands, and that's kind of what you had to do if you wanted to play out and make any money. But so that is the biggest change, is that there's a lot of venues now that, you can either sneak in some original material, or there's a lot of places that prefer it, which is, really awesome that you can go somewhere and they expect you to play all of your own stuff. I mean, I never dreamed that would be the situation today. So that's pretty cool.
When did you officially start playing? Was it? I know you were in a band called the Electric Bananas. Mark Goldie named.
No, and why would he say that? Why would he even want to claim that he came up with that name? It's a horrible name.
Did you have a lot of projects prior to the Electric Bananas?
Yes. Nothing cool though. I mean, it was just like basement bands with my brother, and we always had bad names, like Rusty Halo was one, and we had a hit called Campground Killer.
Wow.
About a guy who was killing people with a rototiller. But then there was, when I was in high school, me and my brother and a couple other guys formed a band, and we bought a PA, got a light show, bought a truck to start driving around. And so, when I was like 20 years old, we were playing pretty much around the UP and Wisconsin, driving around in our truck. And then that kind of, when my brother left town, he went to school in Hollywood for a while. So when he left, I started the Electric Bananas with Mark Goldie and Scott Schrader. And that was in 1992.
And who thought of the name for that?
It definitely, the weird thing about it is that Mark and I, the bands we were in after the Electric Bananas, both had horrible names. When we split up, I started the Impossible Washload, and Mark went on to a band called Bruised Fruit. So I guess it could have been either of us that named the Electric Bananas, but I'm pretty sure it was me.
And you were thrust into national prominence after that.
Yes. All great career choices along the way. It just actually, the Impossible Washload, we could not get any gigs at all. So we spent a lot of money back in those days getting like a poster done where they were doing Photoshop and everything. And we showed up and wore like pantyhose over our heads like we were bank robbers, and added some bubbles, brought our own bubble machine in, and photoshopped some extra bubbles on the poster, made it an extra large size, and still got no gigs, but we were in debt because of the posters for a while.
But you look good, though, right?
Yeah, it looks great in my basement.
When did you start writing more original material?
Yeah, even back then, I guess I did a lot of co-writing type of things back then in like the Bananas and the Impossible Washload. Actually, we had like 9 songs that we were going to release, but never did. And then in Boxcar also, we, I co-write a lot of stuff. But that entire time I was writing things, at home. And so I finally had like a group of songs that I thought were good enough to, do something with. I never wanted to be like a solo guy, but songs are like my kids, and I wanted, what's best for them. So I'm like, I should release these and play them out so other people can hear them. see what I've been up to. So that's how that started.
Do you do most of your writing on electric or acoustic?
Acoustic. I have one acoustic that's in this extra room at home, and it started off, it was tuned to some weird open tuning because I was trying to figure out a Soundgarden song, I think it was, and I started coming up with songs on that, and I kept thinking I just got to write some in standard tuning, but that guitar was always sitting there in that weird tuning, and every time I picked it up it was like magic. I kept writing more stuff, so I have a lot of ideas that are all in these weird, crazy tunings.
Do you find that hard to participate in like an open jam?
It's
You just show up?
impossible. Yes, it is. And if you show up, even here today, somebody will point at a guitar and say, "Hey, go play something," and I have to tune everything down, 2 whole steps, and there's some droning notes that you need some weird.
That's the nice thing about drums, though. You never have to do that.
Right. That's why I'm thinking about switching to drums. We were talking about that.
Drummers seem to have like a thing with snare sound, it sounds like. And I don't know. You both mentioned your brother
Yeah.
is a musician who plays drums.
Yeah.
Did you ever talk about the pains of being a drummer?
Well, the pain of being a drummer is really your relatives who live with the drummer, because I remember as a kid, that's all you would hear around the house is drums. And I would work during the day, and I'd come home and I'd try to take a nap or something like that. And he was always constantly practicing, and it was just never ending. And you get used to it. And now I can tune anything out,
Really?
alarms, my seatbelt alert thing in my car. I don't even notice it's on.
I usually need a quart of vodka to do that.
Well, that helps too.
How did you get into Boxcar?
That was 2004. Their guitar player was leaving, and he called me, and he's like, I'm going to be leaving, and they have some gigs coming up this summer. And he was trying to get somebody ready to at least fill in temporarily. So I'm like, I'll do it. I went and saw them, and I didn't like them. First time I saw them, I'm like, this is not for me. It's not going to work. And then then we contacted each other. I met Chris at Mill Creek, and then we had a rehearsal, and it was actually pretty cool. The guys were cool, and but I was just filling in. And my first gig was at Summerfest in Milwaukee, and then every gig after that was getting better and better. Then we played at the Viper Room in Los Angeles a couple times, and did the thing where we were opening for Three Doors Down, and
Let's have to stop you. You said your first show with them was at Summerfest?
yeah.
Small.
Yeah. I'm like,
A teeny little thing downtown.
but actually we had a few rehearsals before then, and we wrote that song Restless Heart we came up with in one of those first rehearsals. So things were clicking right away. And then I did quit a few years later. My daughter was, she was born at the end of 2004. So I forget where I was. I was in Washington, D.C. for a week, and my wife, called me, and she's like, this isn't going to work. So I quit for a while, and then they had somebody to replace me, and that person ended up leaving, and then I was filling in for him again, and it just never left until 2015, I think it was.
Is Matt Hammond the greatest sideman ever?
He is.
Isn't
He is your sideman, in life type guy.
Yeah.
He's always got your back. He's crazy. He's a little crazy, maybe seriously.
And he sings like an angel.
He does, like Ashley Angel. He's a great player.
He's wonderful.
And he's just a ball of energy. So you get within 2 feet of him, and all of a sudden it's your skin tingles, and it rubs off on you, and you become energized. He sings great. He also writes songs. So there was a song on the last Boxcar album that he wrote, which you'd never know because the credits are so squashed. The type font is so
Plus,
small.
he's like 7 foot tall, isn't he?
He is
He's a tall
just
guy.
about. Yeah.
First time I saw you was with Boxcar at Mill Creek, and you were playing that blue Telecaster, and I think you just had the some Fender amp, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you were every song you were pulling out these tones that were so different but so fitting, and I was just immediately impressed.
Oh, thanks.
Man, it was great.
Yeah, I really liked. It was fun for a while. That band went 3-piece, and then I was the only guitar player, so I could kind of experiment with some bigger sounds and some spacier things, and still do some of the rock stuff, and that was a lot of fun.
Impressive.
Yeah, thanks.
Do you have a pretty sizable guitar collection at home?
I did. I had about 32 guitars at one point.
Wow.
And then
And you don't have them?
no, for a while, times got tough. This is the part of the documentary where everything goes bad. I lost my job, my real job at the time, and the band was kind of keeping me going for a while, money-wise. But I did have to sell. I sold a couple Les Pauls and a couple Telecasters, a B-Bender Telecaster, some bass guitars, a Strat Elite, a black Strat Elite, 1984. I don't know the serial number, but that one I'd like to get back. And then, sold quite a few.
Guitar, as an investment, is really skyrocketed over the last couple decades. It's some of that stuff you might pay double if you wanted to buy it back.
It's true. It's really true. There's no getting any of those back, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, so I've got just a few right now. I have 2 Telecasters and 2 Strats, 1 Les Paul, and I'm trying to get some better acoustics. All my acoustic guitars are, even my good one is like a low-end Martin. I kind of gravitate towards cheaper guitars, I guess.
Hondo.
Yep, that'll be my next purchase. $98.
Bob mentioned the sweet tones that come out of your amps. Do you find that the most important part of the setup is the amp, the pedals, or the guitar? If somebody had to put all their budget in one spot.
Yeah, I like to think it's the amp. Something about the amp that kind of dictates the way you play. And I've had the same. I have this Buddha boutique amp. It's like 18 watts, and I had 2 of them. One, I was in a car accident a couple years ago, and my speaker cabinet was in the back of the car, and I got rear-ended, and it flew through the back window onto the hood of the car behind me, onto the highway, and then got hit by a truck. So I picked up the pieces and burned the pieces in a fire a couple years later.
Wow.
But I've had basically the same amps for 25 years probably. And if I play somebody else's amp, even with my own guitar, I play differently. It's like this give and take kind of. I don't know how to explain it even, but yeah, I'd say the amp first of all, and then the guitar, and then everything in between. Yeah.
Have you recorded at a lot of different studios over the span of your career?
Not a lot. In Boxcar, I just saw a poster. We were at Smart Studios working on some stuff way back in 2005, I think it was, and we spent a week there. They put us up in a hotel, and we were, I don't think we were working on anything new. I think they wanted to re-record some songs that they had already put out on the first record. So we were there for a week. It was a really cool experience because the engineer was awesome. His assistant was awesome. The guy putting up the money and the whole situation was not so awesome. And then I guess I think I'm the only one who's been to every version of Mark Goldie's Rock Garden Studios. And I think he's forgot about some of them because the Electric Bananas recorded in his living room, which I think is technically the first location. And then he moved to this Bonsai Studios Nina location. Then temporarily he was in Oshkosh, which I think he forgets. He was there for a few months, and I recorded there also. And then there was the Walter Avenue, and I think I'm even forgetting one. There was one like on Irish Road in Neenah. So there's like 5 or 6 locations before he's where he is now. But I've recorded at each of those.
Did you help him when he was setting up the current location?
No, whenever it comes to like the hard work like that, I make sure I'm far away.
That's a good plan.
Sorry, Mark.
What do you think of what he's built over there?
It's the location is awesome because it's big and it sounds really good in there, and it's got a cool atmosphere. It's like if you're there late at night, I'm pretty sure it's haunted. But I don't think he would want anybody to know that. But I like that. I like that vibe. There's like some energy there, and the lighting is great. It's really cool venue for like when he does those Thursdays, the Rock Garden Live, or any of the CD release parties there. It's a cool place to go watch a band. But the sounds he gets out of the studio, with the console, but it's him behind it all. He's got all the cool gear, but he knows how to run it, and he's got a particular, sound that he's usually going for. And with this last project that I've been doing with him, we've experimented quite a bit, did a lot of crazy sounds, turned some really small songs into these big epic performances with timpani, bells, choir, all kinds of crazy stuff. So he's willing to experiment, and I know him pretty well, so we don't even have to talk about a lot of things. We just kind of head the same direction. So that's
when is that project supposed to?
It was supposed to be new. I think when I originally talked to you about doing this, I thought it was going to be like right about now, but I think thinking at the end of May or the beginning of June actually is probably a good realistic thing. It's almost there. I've got 2 songs where I laid down scratch vocals because I didn't have any lyrics, and I still don't have lyrics for those 2. So that's the only thing. I'm just waiting for some words to come to me, and then I'll finish that, and then we'll go mix everything, which will be a lot of fun. There's a lot of parts.
Any Hammond magic?
There's some Hammond. There is, we've got some Mellotron, which is like some vintage sounds. And we've got, we were lucky enough, I don't know if you guys know who Jellyfish is. They're a cool band in the 90s, but Roger Manning played some keys on one song. And, so it turned out to be a bigger sound than I expected. So there's no way I'll be able to reproduce it live, so I'm not even going to try, I guess.
Before the show, we were talking about the Whammy nominations that recently came out, and you are nominated for Album of the Year.
Yeah. Jace Stulo and I got this project together just last year? I don't even remember. Lost track of time. I think it was last spring. We had been doing like a weekly gig at the Gibson Music Hall on Sundays, and we're like, hey, we should work on like an album. And Jay pretty much had a batch of songs he was working on anyway, so we kind of started with that, and we got my brother on drums and Chris Hanaway on bass, and we emailed each other the demos. And I don't think we ever rehearsed together at all, but we got together in the studio that day to record, and we laid down, I think it was 10 tracks, and we did them all in 4 hours.
Wow.
One of the songs, we kept the first take, so it was like the first time we ever played it together as a band, and that ended up being the final track. And it was a cool experience because Jay and I, laid down all of our parts, live at the same time. So that was kind of fun, just like, playing off of each other. And it was a cool experience, like playing kind of more of a blues rock thing for me is different. I was either doing way back when I was doing like Iron Maiden and Metallica in my first band, but then then it was pop rock, and then now it's like blues rock. So it's cool to kind of expand your palette.
Are you meeting a different cast of characters each kind of genre that you get into?
Yes, definitely. Definitely different. And the blues scene, they're different people. They're all very nice, but it's a little different.
More intense?
They are. They're diehard fans. And that's the one thing I noticed, when we're playing some of these blues festivals where there are these guys that know all of their blues guitarists. They know this lineage from the beginning of time, like who inspired who, and like regional sounds, like that's Chicago blues, or that's West Coast blues.
Who played cornet on Time to Blow?
Right, and they know that. They know that stuff. So when I don't know that stuff, and sometimes I think they can tell. They're like looking at Jay. Jay is a great player, and he can pull off all these things, and he's legit. And then when it's like my turn to take a solo, I think everybody looks a little confused. They're like, this is kind of like a Buddy Guy style song, but this guy, he's playing like, East Coast blues. He doesn't know what he's doing, and I don't really, but yeah, they're very intense, but very appreciative. They all sit and they watch and listen, and they applaud when you're done. And
do you find it hard to be a part of so many different projects? Do they end up butting against each other?
Sometimes I just feel like I'm not focused, or sometimes I'm worried I'm not, so I have a gig coming up in Wausau with my trio playing like all of my original stuff. And I saw on the Facebook event that there are a bunch of people that come to some of the Jace band gigs that it looks like they're all going to be going. And, are they going to expect like, rock, blues, guitar, like 5-minute guitar solos and stuff like that? Because that's not going to happen. So sometimes I feel like I'm a little spread a little too far. I'm not sure, though.
You're out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. Well, my comfort zone is always my guitar, I guess. So
Acoustic.
right. If it's acoustic or electric, I'll just play it and ignore everybody else. It's usually what happens.
I've been wondering, I'll interject this question here. Obviously, when you're younger, you got a little bit more freedom to do all your weird stuff. You get married, you get a job, you have kids. How do you prioritize between family and your work? I mean, do you have to make a conscious cutoff point, or do you just kind of organically let it happen?
I guess it's mostly organic, but then, there are times you just have to make sure that, because I've made that mistake in the past where I let the music thing kind of spill over into family life more than it should. And then especially like when, I lost my job and I was depending on the band, it kind of in my head became more of a priority, like, that I have to keep doing that, no matter what. But there's a lot of weird situations that come up that you have to, just be aware of what you're doing, or
You have to consciously.
Yeah, it's easy to forget it. If you're in a band, you don't like to say no. You don't want to turn down gigs because then your agent just won't ask you anymore. They'll just stop asking. So it's like you just get it ingrained in your head to take every gig and say yes, yeah, I'll do it. I'll be there. So they can keep calling you back and you can be dependable. But that's what gets you in trouble at home. So you just gotta beware, I guess.
It helps to have a wife that is into what you're doing, though, right? Put them on the hot spot.
Yeah, right. Yeah. my wife, Sean, she's awesome. She's got better taste in music than I do, for sure. And she, a lot of the times I'm coming up with things and she's just like, well, that sounds really dumb. Or like there's one song on the new album called The Armchair Astronaut. And I was trying to explain how it's sort of like when I was a kid, I was way into sci-fi, and it's about this guy who like just comes home every day and sits in this chair and watches sci-fi and has like a telescope and he's way into space. And she's like, well, that is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. So she can put a lot of perspective, too much perspective on things. But
it's good to be grounded like that, though.
It is good to have a ground, and I definitely have that.
Let's do another song. How about a Boxcar song? This one is I'm Over You.
Nice.
Any story behind that one?
No, that was a fun one. That was after two of the other guys quit, like shortly after each other. So we were down to a 3-piece band, and we had a meeting. We all met at a bar, and at first I think it started off as this vibe like it's probably going to be the end. But then after a few drinks, we were like, no, we're going to do this and this. And we did. We went back in the studio and somehow came up with a bunch of songs that were good. And that was the first one, I think. And I really liked the bridge section in here. That I think Matt and I came up with the bridge section with the harmony parts in there. And Brian Bremer, a previous guitar player, one of the original guys, had the verses laying around for a long time, and that's kind of what we started working with, and the song kind of built from there. And the title of the song was Kudos to You, but we changed that. I think I didn't like it. But Chris did say in one of the times through the chorus, I'm over you. I'm like, that is it. That's the hook right there. So what else was weird about that one? There's something weird in the guitar solo that happened because we were doing it like live in the studio, and I hit a bad note or a weird note, and I'm like, I like it though. So we went back in and pitch shifted the rhythm guitar track and the bass track like up a half step to make it seem like my guitar note made sense. And I was just talking to our engineer. I'm like, I think it's going to work, and we tried it and it did. So all of a sudden there's this little key change or one weird chord beyond the guitar solo in the middle. And that was just...
Some of us would call that sorcery.
It was some sort of wizardry, magical, but it worked. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Not too distant past, you got to play a show with the one, the only 80s icon, Tiffany.
Yeah, yes, I did. And my brother played drums with her for quite a while, and she's based out of Nashville. And their guitar player had double booked himself. He is originally from Canada and was stuck playing up there with somebody. So about a week before the gig in Des Moines, it was like the Des Moines State Fair, is the one that he couldn't make. So I flew down to Nashville and we did some rehearsals at, I forgot the name of the place. It's like a big rehearsal studio down there. And, Tiffany walks in and she's really sweet, and she had like food with her, which, right away I'm like, I'm awesome. In. Yeah, right? So, and she's got a great voice. Like her voice is, it's way bigger than you'd expect. She's got, it's really amazing. Like, so I can see why, she's still doing this after so long. She is actually, she's not just the one who did the first mall tour or whatever it was. She is really talented and she's really cool. We did the gig in Des Moines, and so I was, the songs I had just learned, I had learned like 24 songs that week, And so they're all just barely in my head, just barely hanging in there. And we started the first song, and we played to a click track and some tracks. Like the keyboard player had all the stuff in his computer, but the computer went down 30 seconds into the first song. So then all of a sudden you realized, how much you actually know the songs, and
I'm naked.
Yeah, yep, totally naked, and I'm standing in front of a bunch of people, and then she points at me to do a guitar solo, and then so I did a guitar solo, and then we went into the next song, and his stuff still wasn't working, so she started pulling songs like they do in Nashville. They'll just yell out random songs, and the guys in the band are holding up hand signals so you know what chord you're going to, and which I don't know any of that. So, but thank goodness, for years and years, Mark Goldie and I in the Bananas, we started as an open mic band. We hosted 2 open mics a week for 2 years, and so I think both of our ears got pretty good, during that time. So I'm pretty good at following or faking my way through things, to the point now where I don't actually learn anything. I just kind of fake it as I go every time. Every time it's like playing the song for the first time. But
that was definitely a double take moment when I saw the post on Facebook. It's like, I'm playing with Tiffany. Or what?
I know. There's video. If you look on YouTube and look up Tiffany Iowa State Fair, there I am.
There you are.
But yeah, but she was really cool. And actually she, afterwards we all hung out at the hotel for a while, and the hotel bar was going to close, but we were spending enough money there that they kept it open. And then afterwards we all went back to her room, and we were listening to tunes on her phone, and she would crank up her phone and set it inside an empty ice bucket so it'd be louder. And so it's a nice little tip, I guess. But we were taking turns playing songs, and when it was her turn, she picked The Number of the Beast by Iron Maiden. Was
Interesting.
Was her choice.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a rocker.
Wow.
Yep.
So you've played all over the place. When people are talking about places to play in the Fox Cities, of course, College Avenue is, hot to play. Is there a pocket in the Fox Cities that people might not know is there that's really hopping right now?
Not that I.
That didn't go where I thought it would.
I guess I haven't been. I've been playing out of the area quite a bit. So the only times I do play in Appleton would be downtown, Deja Vu or Gibson Music Hall, and that's about it. But there are a lot of other places in the valley that people aren't aware, have bands, even Emmett's or McGinnis or I'm trying to think where else. I've done some gigs at those places.
Cold Shot.
Yep, Cold Shot for sure. Cold Shot has had live music for forever, and because they're on Wisconsin Avenue, I think they get kind of left out of the loop of being downtown. But yeah, they've always got live music there. The Maritime used to. Every once in a while they will. They're also on Wisconsin Avenue, but
the seedy underbelly of the Appleton rock scene.
right, that's where all the interesting stuff really happens. Yeah.
Has Boxcar ever done Mala Music or any of those?
No.
Electric City or any of those festivals around here?
I think we tried getting in Mile of Music at one point, but that was a no-go. I think, we had played a lot, when we're playing in other states like Chicago or, Los Angeles, we play all original stuff, or we did. And then when we'd play around here, we played pretty often, so we do a lot of covers, just to keep it different because just for fun, I guess. But then, when it comes to an original music festival and the organizers kind of see you in the area just playing covers, then it doesn't seem like a good fit. And, it's probably accurate because we were a little more on the pop rock side. And in the beginning of Mile of Music, I don't think there was, there might be there's rock stuff now, but back in the early days. I don't think there even was really. So,
Do you feel there's a lot of competition amongst the local bands on the scene here?
I don't.
Is it a pretty tight knit?
Yeah, I think everybody's pretty cool. Yeah, I don't think it's very, competitive. Actually, there's a lot of people's attention spans are shorter than they used to be too. So, like back in, when I used to play a lot more, we were playing like 4 hours, every night. The Electric Bananas, we had found an old schedule where we played 6 gigs per week. And there was usually 2 on Thursday. We'd have off on Mondays, and sometimes we'd have an open jam on Tuesday. I forget, but it was jam packed. And there's not as many places that run bands anymore. But and people don't want to sit through 4 hours of the same band. So a lot of times you get a lineup of like 3 bands playing at one location. And it keeps things interesting for the people watching, and it's fun to like hang out with the other bands. So I think, if anything, it's not really competitive, but people are working together a little bit more because they're trying to promote the scene and promote, each other's bands. And so yeah, if anybody out there is looking for a third act to get on their bill, I play with a trio and looking for some more gigs.
I've heard that band Pudged, like start fights and stuff like that.
Right?
So
Throw down.
That's Pudge. So you've been, again, in the music business for quite a while. What's your take on EPs? Everybody's doing EPs and singles now instead of albums. And I'm kind of a purist as far as that goes. I prefer an album, but do you feel the pressure to start putting out EPs and singles? Like you said, attention spans are so short,
right?
So you can almost blow it all in one release or stagger it.
That's true.
Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm the same way, where I like one piece of work, and I like listening to an album front to back, and I like if it's got some sort of theme or sound or cohesiveness to it. And EPs are cool, I guess. If you're less and less people buy CDs, I don't even know. I don't own a CD player anymore, so I'm not sure. At what point does it still matter to have like a cohesive work? People listen, they stream it on Spotify, and it'll shuffle your playlist anyway, so it kind of loses that flow of an album, but I still like having big chunks of music to listen to. And for as far as singles, I think if you release a lot of singles, that they just start getting lost after a while. If you see somebody's got another single, you kind of lose track. Was that the one from last week? I don't remember anymore. And I'm probably just jealous because I don't write that fast. I don't write fast enough to release singles that often,
do you feel like the resurgence in vinyl, is that like a fad, or do you think that can have some sustainability?
Yeah, I hope it sustains, because that is, when you talk about having a package of songs or something to hold on to, an album, you've got the artwork is cooler to look at. You can actually read the print, the fine print on it. And just looking at an album is cool.
Yeah.
And, just to be able to put one on the turntable, that's awesome. And I hope it sticks around. The problem with albums is, if you're traveling around doing a lot of gigs, it was easy to throw a bunch of CDs in a bag and go. But when there's albums, you got to take care of them. You can't leave them on the back seat of your car in the summer in the sun. It takes a little more care, I guess, but it's cool. Albums are cool.
Yeah.
With your solo project, comparing that to being in Boxcar, do you find it kind of relaxing to take care of all aspects, to be the decision maker, or do you prefer to be part of a decision making group?
Well, that is a tricky question. That really is. I guess at first I thought I was relieved. Like I'll just do all this, by myself. It's gonna be awesome. And then the first thing that I noticed was that I missed the camaraderie, of like hanging out with the other guys. You're rehearsing with 4 other guys, driving to the gig, hanging out at the hotel. Even in the studio, when one guy's tracking drums, you're hanging out with the other guys, just drinking beer, shooting the shit, whatever. And then when you're doing a solo thing, like my first one, I was, basically doing it by myself. It was Tony Anders, was the producer. So it was me and him. And I'd go in and, some of the songs, it was just me and a guitar. And I would just sit there and play to him, over and over until the track sounded good. And then I did get Matt Gieske from Boxcar in to play drums on a couple songs, but for the most part, it was like a lonely experience. I'm writing songs at home by myself at 4 o'clock in the morning, which is usually when I write stuff. And then I show up at the studio, and I'm not even in the same room with the other guy. He's in the control room. I'm out in some other room playing by myself. And we get done, and I go home, and it seemed really weird. And then I started playing gigs like that, doing some. My first few solo shows were pretty rough, like playing. I'm just starting, and I didn't have enough for a full night, so I get play early when there's nobody there and nobody's listening, and it was rough. So I missed the camaraderie, and I realize I don't like booking things either. It's just, you call a venue, you book something. One of the guys in the band might have a conflict all of a sudden. You call the venue back, reschedule. The venue forgets that they rescheduled it. It's just, it's a big pain. It's really a big pain in the butt. So,
have you ever had a situation where you got into an argument with a club owner or the business that promised, to pay a certain amount or maybe changed?
Not for a long time. I mean, way back, like the Electric Bananas again comes to mind. Sorry, Mark.
I feel I should have a bell every time.
Right thing. I know. Maybe we should just come in and talk about this someday. But there were a lot of times. I mean, I remember I remember doing a radio interview where somebody called in, and they were playing our songs between us talking, and somebody called in was talking about how it sucked. Turn that crap off. You guys suck. Whatever. And we thought it was our sound guys just giving us crap, but it wasn't. It was like somebody who really hated us, I guess. So there's that. There were a few venues where they didn't like us either. We were. We did a lot of 60s and 70s, but we kind of rearranged them, and we weren't doing all the pop songs, and we were doing our own stuff mixed in with that, and some places liked it and some really hated it. But the last 10 years or so, I don't remember anything bad happening as far as a club owner or the audience.
I'll bring up the Electric Bananas again. Ding. Ding. You guys got together to raise money for somebody last year, and I think that was the last time the Electric Bananas played.
Yep. That was almost a year ago. That was February 10th of 2019 for Tony Ellenbecker had a benefit. He had cancer, which I think is I think he's free and clear right now, so that's awesome. But we hadn't played, we played in the early 90s for the most part, and then we stopped. We broke up and, went our separate ways. And then we got back together for a little while around 2000 for maybe a year or two. And then again last year. And that, as far as I know, might be that might be it. We'll have to see.
Is there any unreleased Electric Bananas material that should be released?
No. I have demos. Our album, Open Sesame, we had actually started recording it once somewhere else. And And I did find like a cassette with a few versions of those songs. And there's one random song on it that we never did anything with. But yeah, no other unreleased.
We should spin some.
We should. Could you hook us up?
No, I don't think there's anything left. No, I have a box of CDs yet somewhere.
They were destroyed in that fire that destroyed all the United Artists stuff, right?
Right, and the fire that I'm going to start as soon as I get home.
We talked about the project you're currently working on with Mark Goldie.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the Whammy nomination. Is Boxcar planning another release in the near future?
I don't think so. Like after, we had 2 guys leave, and then it was down to a 3-piece with me and Chris and Matt, and then we put out that last album in 2015. So that was 5 years ago. Then Chris put together another band after that he was playing with for a while, but I think I don't think they even play anymore. So nothing that I'm aware of.
You're still friends with all the guys, though?
Yeah, actually, me and Matt Hammond and Matt Gieske just met at Cleo's a little while back, just for drinks. It was supposed to be a monthly thing, but it turns into like a yearly thing. So, and Chris has been, he's singing with Road Trip now, and he's always been pretty busy. And
I want to thank you for coming on and doing Core. Where can people go to find out more about Tom Thiel?
Yeah, my website is tomthielmusic.com, and I haven't updated it in a while, but shortly I will. I think with the new album, which should be out by June, I'll have to do some updating and get everything back up to speed and
refreshed.
Yeah, right. Get back out there.
Well, again, thank you for doing Core. And good luck with the Whammy nomination. Yeah. I'd like to also thank Bob Minter, host of Zip Code Zero, for co-hosting today.
Oh, shucks.
Thanks for having me, you guys.